Who are you?
Whoever you want me to be.
Don't say I never gave you anything.
It's feeling epic.
3 words. 8 letters.
I remember everything.
Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Previously on Teen TV. I'm Jillian Banani.
And I'm Claire Wojciechowski.
And we have another very special episode for you today. We are talking about the couples that didn't end up together but should have.
Yes, it is our should have been Endgame couples, to use the parlance of these shows, you know, when Veronica calls Archie and says, we're Endgame.
Do you want to explain what Endgame means, I guess?
I don't know. So Endgame, it just means that they end up together in the end. I don't know that there's a more specific, definition than that. I honestly don't know where it came from, but at some point the fandom started using this term to talk about their favorite ships and if, couples were Endgame or not. And it's just something that has permeated its way so deep into these shows that it was used on the show to talk about a relationship.
And now it's just part of our everyday vocabulary.
I know. It was a big movie. We talk about, it's the Endgame. Are they Endgame? Is this Endgame? It's a Taylor Swift song.
I am very passionate about Endgames. And sometimes I don't always agree. And I get mad and upset. And I wish we could go back in time and change it. And all the fan fiction in the world will not help it.
Yeah, well, good thing you have this podcast where you can let your thoughts and feelings out. So today we are each going to talk about 3 couples that we think should have been Endgame. And we're going to touch on why we think that they should have ended up together and not ended up with whomever else they did on the show, which I guess means that shows that are still currently airing do not qualify for this because we don't know yet.
That is a good point. Yeah, it has to be a show that's already been done and solidified the couples for sure. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about this because I think the passion and the feelings are really going to come out here. I mean, couples are a big part of these teen shows. It's fun to ship these couples and then be like, I really want them to end up together. So then when they don't, it can be quite frustrating.
I agree. I'm excited to dive in.
Yeah. So writers beware. We're going to be talking about
We're coming for your choices.
Yeah. All right, Claire, do you want to kick us off?
Sure thing. So my first couple is Rory and Jess from Gilmore Girls.
Good one. I also agree that they should have been Endgame.
Yes, thank you. I am on the record as being Team Logan.
I know. I am kind of surprised that you picked this because you are a Team Logan girly.
So here's my reasoning. I liked, as far as what we saw on Gilmore Girls, the original series, I think that Logan was the best boyfriend for Rory.
Yes.
But taking into account that series and the revival, who I would have liked her to end up with ultimately, including both shows, I think it's obviously Jess.
Yeah.
They are well matched intellectually. They have similar interests as far as writing and reading. And he is the one who snaps her out of her sort of funk, not once, but twice. I mean,
why did you drop out of Yale?
It's iconic. I can quote you that whole speech.
Yeah.
And he's like, I know you better than anyone. And he does.
It's so good.
It's great. He is the one who finally gets her to wake up and to go back to school and to repair things with her mother. And then again, in the revival, she's like back in Stars Hollow, doesn't know what to do. She's lost, doesn't have a job, blah, blah, blah. And Jess is the one who's like, you should write a novel about your relationship with your mom.
Once again, bringing her out of that funk.
Right. And you can see like the love in his face. Like they're not together. He's just trying to be friendly. But like the chemistry is there. So I think ultimately in the long run, for the end game, it should have been Rory and Jess.
And I agree with that. And I feel like, in my head, their end game, like in the sense of like, it's supposed to be Logan's baby.
Yeah.
At the end of the revival. Mm-hmm. And then I believe in my head that Jess really stepped in and helped Rory out when Logan, didn't.
The way that Luke stepped in and helped Lorelai when Rory was growing up.
Exactly.
Yes,
exactly.
Parallels are there.
But I wish we would have seen that in the show.
Yes.
And I think that it is something that was missing in the revival. Like just even more scenes with them together because their chemistry is so good together. And I am not usually a fan of characters who have similar interests and are pretty similar to get together.
I agree.
I'm more of an opposites girly.
I 100% agree.
But it worked with them. Mm-hmm. And because I think they still were maybe, they didn't have too many similarities. They weren't the same person. They had their differences. And it just worked so well. And the fact that Jess was always the one to really know her on a deeper level than I think any of the other guys. I just wanted more for them.
I know, it's a bummer.
But maybe one day we'll get more Gilmore Girls. Just bring it back.
I know. We can see Rory raising this kid, and maybe she reconnects with Jess, and they have a nice little family together. That's my dream.
I know. That's in my head. There's got to be a lot of fan fictions out there about that. So
yeah,
I better get to read it. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Just write it. Yeah.
A new career for you.
I love it. All right, so my first woulda, coulda, shoulda couple is one I've talked about a bit on this podcast, but it's important, okay? I'm talking Caroline and Klaus from the Vampire Diaries.
Yes.
This could have been an epic love story on this show, and we did not get it, and I am still so mad about it. I think that Klaus and Caroline have everything that you want in one of these shows. Enemies to lovers, the villain getting with the good girl. We see Klaus start to become a better person because of Caroline. And part of their dynamic is just so interesting. Klaus is infatuated with her from the very beginning, and he is the most powerful vampire.
Yeah, the biggest, baddest, scariest guy, and he's just obsessed with this teen girl.
And that is what Caroline wanted. That's all she wants. She just wants one of these guys to pick her, and it finally happens. And I'm just so mad that we never really saw them together or in any kind of a relationship. And they deserved more than just that hookup scene in the woods, in my opinion. I think that they had a deeper relationship with that. We saw them talking about deep stuff. We saw them have fun together and laugh. I just think there was so much foundation there, and they had the best chemistry on that show.
I mean, I am on record again as being happy that Caroline and Stefan ended up together, but yeah. I do agree their chemistry is incredible. The scene when he rescues her from the school when Rick is evil and he's talking to her, and all he says is you go and I will save the rest of them, but their faces are so close together, and the way that he's looking at her, it's so weirdly passionate, even though the words are not passionate. I'm getting warm. It's I know. It's intense.
And it's we're supposed to be scared of him at that point, but we're ooh.
Right? Caroline has a boyfriend, and we're but Klaus is so cute.
I know. And I know the argument can be made that he is a villain, a terrible person who's killed many people, tormented her friends.
Yes. Tried to kill her boyfriend multiple times.
Yeah. And I get that argument, and I get that it's oh, Caroline wouldn't date that. But I'm sorry, in season 4, they had Klaus basically join the group. Okay?
Yeah. They had
help them out a lot.
They had to work together against a common enemy. Yeah.
So I just think that maybe then could have made sense for them to get together and let Caroline date a bad guy. I mean, everyone on that show is somewhat of a bad person. Let her have some fun. Why does she always have to be so good, Well,
I think she does. She also sees the good in him when nobody else does.
Right.
Everyone else is Klaus is evil, and that scene where he bites her and she's dying in the Gilbert house, he says something I know that you love me.
Right.
And I don't feel that way about you, but also anyone who's capable of love is capable of being saved.
Yeah.
And that's when he decides to save her. She's basically even though I'm not with you, I see that you have goodness.
I thought they were written well and written in a way where they wanted us to ship them, but then didn't give us everything we wanted out of it. I think it's just frustrating too, because we start to see Klaus become a better person, and then he gets his spin-off and starts dating another blonde.
I know.
It's just so frustrating.
Well, I think he likes these blondes that can challenge him, and that's who Caroline is, where he's fascinated by her because she pushes back and she's not afraid to call him out and stand up for it. And I think in turn he represents this worldliness that she has always wanted, this chance to see other things and be bigger than Mystic Falls and things like that. And, you know, ultimately she gets past his evilness and says to him at the finale of the originals, it's not that I couldn't love you, but like I gave my heart to Stefan. Like, so she eventually acknowledges, like, I can see that you're potentially good and I can get past all the bad stuff, but it's just that she's so brokenhearted over her dead husband that she can't, you know, be with him.
And I liked Stefan and Caroline together. I did like when they got together, but I just feel like it wasn't that like epic love that like Caroline deserves and that Klaus could have given her, in the sense of like, I wanted somebody like so in love with Caroline. And I feel like because Stefan and Caroline didn't get together till later on the show and they were older, it wasn't that like all consuming love.
Yeah.
And I wanted Caroline to have that. I just felt like she deserved that.
I get that. Yeah, I understand.
All in all, I just think I wish we could have gotten Klaus and Caroline, like a couple episodes, maybe traveling the world together, and then it doesn't work out. That just would have satisfied me, I think.
Agreed. Yeah. All right. So moving on to my next couple, I'm going to go with one that we've talked about many times, Serena and Nate on Gossip Girl.
Should have ended up together.
I mean, we have discussed this ad nauseum, but they did not get justice as a couple. Nate did not get justice as a character. Every time, yeah.
I mean, Nate is like the hottest one on that show, and he's like barely in the later seasons. He barely has a storyline.
I know.
It's ridiculous.
Well, and most of the relationships that they have respectively are with these older people, or in Nate's case, a younger person. Like, they're always inappropriate. Like, they're always in these inappropriate relationships with people that are too old or too young or in a position of power over them or married or what have you.
Yeah.
And like, the only sort of calm, relaxed feeling that I feel like they either have is when they're together.
I know.
We also get like, I'm sort of the mind that like in a heterosexual relationship, a man should love the woman a little bit more than she loves him.
Whoa. We got to unpack this.
I did not come up with this theory. I've heard it espoused that it's just like it's a power thing.
I have never heard you say this. I mean, I'm on board. I like to watch that on my TV shows where the guy is more into the girl. I think it's just more interesting.
I think too, we're watching as female viewers on these shows that are geared towards women. And so we want like this man to be completely in love with this girl.
Yeah, falling apart.
Yeah. And we get that from Nate. He's obsessed with her from the beginning. You know, they have this really hot hookup in the pilot that we flash back to. And when she comes back into town, he is so excited to see her. And she giddy, yes. And she seems a little bit sad that she's like, I'm not back for you, but it seems like a little bit like a, you know, like a I wish I could but I can't type of thing.
And like unfinished business.
Yes, because they hooked up and then she like ran away immediately after, basically. I just think that like they have a nice, like solid, dependable relationship. They understand each other in a way that like Dan doesn't get because Dan didn't grow up in this world.
Agree with that, definitely.
Yeah. And also like at the end of the day, you cannot tell me that Serena would be okay with marrying Dan after finding out that he is Gossip Girl.
I mean, that just doesn't make sense at all. And I know this one is very frustrating because we start the show with their hookup. Mm-hmm. And again, it goes unfinished business for like quite some time. They don't get together for a while. And when they are together, they make a great couple. And then, you know, they fall apart. But I feel like I just wish in the last season, they would have revisited them together, because I like when things come full circle too. And I felt like if they would have gotten together in the last season, I just would have been like, oh, this is such a throwback to like the pilot into season 1 and the early seasons of the show. Like, I love that symbolism. Like, bring that in when we can.
Yeah. You know, we'll never know, unfortunately, but Serena and Nate are together in my heart.
I know, same. I mean, just hottest couple, honestly.
So hot, so blonde. They're meant to be.
That's it. That's all you need. Hot and blonde. All right. So for my next couple, I'm bringing it to One Tree Hill, as I typically do. This might be a little controversial. I think Peyton and Jake would have made a good Endgame couple. Hear me out on this, okay? I don't hate Lucas and Peyton, by the way. I think that when they started off the show in season 1, I love those scenes. I love their moments together. I think it's a big draw into the show. But then I think they flubbed it from there. Okay? We don't get that Lucas and Peyton back again. They rush them together in season 4, in my opinion. Lucas is like in love with Brooke 1 second again, and then flips to Peyton like, oh, it's always been you. It's like I needed more of him like pining over her a little bit. Again, we want that guy to be more in love with her.
Yeah.
And I just feel like that was such a missed opportunity with the show. And I would be more into Lucas and Peyton, I think, if they had like explored that a little bit more. But I just think with Peyton and Jake, they had really good chemistry together. And we saw Jake make Peyton like really happy. I mean, he takes her out of a dark place in season 2. She's doing drugs.
And he shows up. She's like about to do drugs. And you see these feet walking up and it's Jake. And you're screaming.
In a leather jacket and motorcycle. I mean, that's Endgame material there.
He wasn't even in town. And then all of a sudden he like rides in to rescue her. It's the stuff that dreams are made of.
It's so good. Like, Lucas is not always the one saving her. I just think if they had made Jake a little bit more of a full-time character, it could have been interesting to see them together and see, like, what the relationship was actually like. Because we only really get them together for a little bit in season 2. And Peyton is happy, actually, like, that entire time. It just seemed like a nice, like, easier kind of relationship, and not like they wouldn't have had their problems or anything like that. But I just thought their chemistry was really good together, and it would have been interesting to more see them together.
Yeah, I mean, I love Jake. I love Jake and Peyton together. I think about, you know, when he leaves again and it's the voiceover about like the greatest tragedy is to get your heart's desire and whatever. And she's like, give me tragedy because I wouldn't give it back for the world or something. Like, it's
So
just talking about Jake
good.
leaving, how like he came, he rescued her. She's so happy to be with him that it's worth the pain, even though he's gone again.
I think they just had so many great moments like that. And yeah, like rip your heart out moments that it's just so sad. So yeah, I just wish that maybe we could have explored them a little bit more. And I'm not hating on Lucas and Peyton. Again, I think that their relationship wasn't handled the best way on the show for me. And it just makes me a little sad. Peyton deserved better, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Don't come for me, people.
Okay, so for my third and final should have been Endgame couple, I am going to go with Betty and Jughead from Riverdale.
Good one. I agree with this, by the way.
Thank you. I think that, again, I'm not a fan of when a girl is pining for a boy and he doesn't realize, you know, that
I know.
we got it in Dawson's Creek, didn't like it then. She's pining for Archie at the beginning of Riverdale, didn't like it then. But then, lo and behold, here comes Jughead, who she's known her entire life, but really isn't close with. And they bond over, they both like literature, they both like writing, they both like sleuthing and snooping and trying to solve these mysteries of what's happening in the town. They both have screwed up families. Like, their chemistry is so cute and sweet together, and it feels very sort of adult in a way right off the bat. That's not like playing house, but like they just feel like supportive partners from the beginning.
I feel like they're a big draw in the show in season 1.
Yeah.
When they get together, it's like you're so interested and like into their relationship. And again, I wish the show just at the end would have brought it back to that and brought it back to them.
I know, because we find out in the series finale that they did not end up together, and that's after 1,000 twists and turns. But I always liked when the two of them were together. I always liked them as a couple. I liked the way that they like would support each other in these like crazy, wacky plans. And even when Jughead has to go to a different school multiple times in the earlier seasons, they're at different schools. They're still dating. They're still talking. They're, you know, living together with both their parents, because their parents are dating and they share a house. It's all very weird.
If parents are dating, the kids are going to get together at some point.
Right?
Like, it just always happens, I feel like.
I mean, listen, shout out to FP and Alice, another should have been Endgame couple.
Yes.
Because I loved them and I was very sad when he left the show. But yeah, I think even though like that's a weird thing that like shouldn't happen probably in real life, like you're living with your boyfriend and your mom, because your mom is dating his dad. Like
luckily Riverdale's not real life.
No, I loved it. I loved them
me too.
playing house together and trying to solve all these crimes and what have you.
They made a good team together and solving crimes too. Like it was fun to see them team up.
Yeah, she lightened him up a little bit and he I think made her tougher, made her braver a little bit. So yeah, Betty and Jughead forever.
Yeah, they were like positive influences on each other, which I think is always nice to see in these shows. Because a lot of times we get some like toxicity and just like, a lot.
Yeah.
Or a lot of drama. And like, I feel like in Riverdale with them two, they really kind of showed them like, at least in the beginning, like influence each other in all positive ways.
Yeah, I mean, not everything was great. Her stripping at the bar, not great.
That was fun.
But yeah, you're
she needed to let loose.
But
that scene's like ingrained in my head. I feel like it was so shocking.
It's so wild. It's so wild. But overall, love them together.
That's a good one. All right, for my last couple, I'm going to bring it back to Gilmore Girls.
Okay.
And I'm going to go with Lane and Dave should have been Endgame. And, like, I understand that, like, Adam Brody went to the OC, so we couldn't have them be Endgame. But I just wanted more for Lane. Like, Dave was such a good match for her. I mean, he gave her the love that she deserves, even if it was only for a few episodes. Like, we got so many cute moments between the two of them. He actually cared about her. He read the Bible. He really tried with her mom and, like, flat out said, I like your daughter.
Yeah. He plays in that, like, weird band like to get closer to her.
Yeah.
Like not with Lane, just like Mrs. Kim needs him and he's like, I'll do it just so that he can like get in the mom's good graces.
Again, it's like that the guy, we see the guy actually like make the moves to be with her. That is just always such good TV. And I mean, Mrs. Kim actually approved of him too, which was a big, what's the word? Obstacle.
Yes.
That Mrs. Kim. And then, we see Lane end up with Zach, and they are just opposites and not in a good way. Not in the opposites that I want it to be. He was never there for her. And I feel like the show tried to use their relationship as like a comedic, like odd couple type of thing. And I just do not think it worked. And it just made us all feel bad for Lane in the end.
Yeah, Lane really gets shafted in the later seasons. She's working at Luke's, which fine. Like you got it, but like that's the only time we see her do anything is working at Luke's part-time as a waitress. She likes Zach and he doesn't like her back. Again, not a fan of an unrequited love where a girl is in love with a boy.
No, I don't want to see that. I had enough of that in my own life. This is supposed to be a fantasy.
Right? Like she's like pining over her bandmate. Not great. And even when they're together, she's like, write a song about me. Like he writes all these songs about other women's names. And she's like, why won't you write one about me? Like she has to tell him how to behave in their relationship.
It's so uncomfortable and sad.
I know. And then you feel like they just end up married because like that's next. And they won't have sex with him unless they're married. And so it's just like, why? And then she immediately gets pregnant. And is like miserable.
I can't even get into the pregnancy storyline. I hate it so much. I feel like there was another way to keep Lane around Stars Hollow and not turn her character into such a tragic mess. Like she could have like had success somehow in Stars Hollow or nearby or like whatever. I get that they wanted to keep her there because Rory's already off at Yale. But I just feel like there was like a way to make her have like some kind of success.
I know. And just give her a better boyfriend. Like if you're going to give
her that.
Like you don't even have to give her a boyfriend at all. But if you do, like somebody better than Zach. Like,
I know.
Come on.
I feel like everyone's still kind of so obsessed with that Dave character because it was a guy on that show who was so like vocal about his feelings. And we didn't always get that at that time. And Adam Brody obviously just is so good at that.
Yeah.
I mean, he just like delivers it and sells it. And he's obviously a little different as Dave than he is as Seth Cohen, but that just like kind of like yearning is still there. And it's just so good. I mean, I'm happy we got him on the OC, but it is just like so sad of like they were really building up this like Lane and Dave thing. And then it's like Dave's gone.
It just ends. I know. It's hard because it's so abrupt.
It's like when you're watching it back, you're like, oh, this is so good. Why couldn't we have gotten more of it? And it shows also, like, Dave helped bring progress to, like, Mrs. Kim. And then that's just, like, fully taken back.
Right.
So it felt like we were progressing a little bit with Lane and Mrs. Kim, and, like, we were getting somewhere with her. And then it's just like, oh, nope, Dave's gone, and we're also taking that all back, too.
Yeah. It's unfortunate.
At least we still have those romantic speeches from Dave that will always live on in our hearts.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do you have any honorable mentions that you want to talk about?
I think that Otis and Maeve from Sex Education.
Oh, good one. Yeah.
I feel like we didn't get a fair shake at them.
Yeah, I agree with that.
He's in love with her from the beginning, sort of, or falls in love with her. He's a crush on her at the very least. And then it's always like they're realizing it too late. She realizes she likes him, but he's with Ola. And then he realizes that he likes her again in season 2, but Isaac turns off her phone or deletes the message.
Oh my God, I hated that story.
I know, I
so
hated
much.
it too. And it's like, then, they're both with other people. It's this whole thing. And they finally get together at the end of season 3, but then she goes off to the US. And it just felt like we see some of them together in the final season, but she's mostly like sad because she's missing her mom. Mm-hmm. And like, we just don't get like a really good shot at them as a couple. And then they end things like on good terms because she goes back to the US, but it's bittersweet because they're like saying goodbye.
I think if we could have seen them date properly for like at least part of a season and not with so much sadness, mm-hmm. I would have been fine with her leaving off and going to the US and them not being together because that's what she needed to do. But I think because we never really got them like properly together and happy in the moment, it just felt like, oh, come on, can't just one thing work out?
I know, 4 seasons of this back and forth, and like we don't really get like a one solid happy moment until the literal last few minutes of the series finale.
It's just too much. It's too sad for me.
I know.
I mean, I love a will they, won't they. Like, honestly, one of my favorite things, and I think shows now have people get together way too quickly.
Yeah.
But get them together at some point. You can't will they, won't they till the very end.
Especially if you know you're going to end the series anyway. Like, get them together sooner in season 4 so that we can at least, it would honestly, like, make it more impactful, I think.
I agree. Like, we need to just have some moments of them actually together and happy in it.
Yeah.
Another mistake. Why don't we just write these shows?
Honestly.
What about? I'll tell everybody what you're doing wrong, okay? Very passionate about it. Okay, so for my honorable mention, I gotta talk about Friday Night Lights. I think that Riggins and Lila should have ended up together. What I'm very upset about.
Oh, producer Jesse's pulling a face.
Okay, I'm sorry, but at the end of Friday Night Lights, it ends with a hint that Tim and Tyra end up together, which is actually insane to me. Tyra is so much better than that. She spends the entire show like saying she wants out of Dylan and like works to do that. And it just makes me so mad that they end up together. They weren't even ever good together on the show. In the beginning, they seemed to like just be a hookup, not much more than that. And I just think that Lila is the type who left Dylan for school and maybe like a few years after college, and then she comes back to Dylan. She's a hometown girl. So I just think that would have made a lot more sense. And I just cannot believe that they hinted at that with Tyra. I mean, in my head, it's like Tim and Tyra maybe like hooked up when she came back, and that's about it.
I liked Tim and Tyra together.
That's insane. That's actually insane to me.
It's like,
he treated her like dirt.
It's like toxic, but it's like it works because they're both toxic kind of to each other.
Oh my God. No.
And I just hate Lila.
I'm sorry. My God. Wow. Okay. Well, I love the Tim and Lila relationship.
I mean, like when they're together, it's the only time I like her, but
yeah,
still.
Wow.
Sorry.
You got some things to unpack there, I think. I mean, I just think like their chemistry was just so good. They have this like opposites attract, and then this shared trauma that like brought them together, and I feel like that shared trauma would just keep bringing them back. They went through too much together.
The shared trauma where they cheated on their best friend and boyfriend
became
together.
paralyzed. Shared
that trauma that they
yeah.
Okay.
Oh my God. I cannot believe you're a fan of Tim and Tyra. Like you're not supposed to be. Like, I just want you to know that.
You got it wrong.
You need to know that.
You also told me I'm supposed to hate Julie Taylor, and I don't, so.
No, I didn't say you were supposed to. I said other people do, and I don't get it.
Wow. Well, we've talked a lot now. We've got some dissent, which is interesting.
The opinions have come out in this app.
You can always count on me to dissent.
Fair enough, yeah.
I am just really floored by that, honestly. Like, wow. Wow. Some strong opinions have come out today. This was fun.
Yeah.
I no longer view producer Jesse the same.
I was going to say, well, I mean, yeah, we've talked a lot about our couples that should have been Endgame. We've touched on reasons why. Let us know if there are folks out there that you think should have been Endgame, or if you agree, disagree, if you're a Tyra fan or a Lila fan. I don't know what either of those, I think
what you can be a fan of both of them.
But who are you a fan of with Tim? That is what we're here to answer today.
I think most people would say Lila.
I'm not most people.
I know.
Yeah, you're not like other girls.
I feel like the Endgame discussion is always so fun because it brings out such strong opinions, and it really shows too of like how people kind of read shows differently and whatnot. Like, I could be really looking into this one scene and somebody else could be looking into this other scene. You know, you gotta love a love triangle and like ships on these shows. They're just so fun.
Yeah, and I think the Endgame conversation is different than shipping because like I said, I shipped Rory and Logan, but
That's true.
As far as Endgame, I think it should be Jess. So it's not necessarily the same thing. The same people shouldn't necessarily end up together in the show than, you know, what you enjoy watching the most, if that makes sense.
It's always interesting just then to see where these characters end up and who they end up with.
Yeah. Well, if you want to hear more about these couples that we've talked about, the ships that we've talked about, you can go back and listen to all of our previous episodes. We've talked about pretty much all of them, I think, at one point or another. You can find those episodes wherever you get your podcasts. Please rate and review us, follow, subscribe, give us 5 stars. You can also find us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at previously on _teen TV.
Thanks for listening.